Oh shoot!
Greetings, humans.
Greetings, humans. What's the date on the planet today? March 6th.
2025. Welcome to another episode of Mike and Dave's Multiverse. Hi, Dave. How you doing?
Good man. I'm doing pretty good today. It's nice and sunny here where I'm at, but windy AF. What's it like where you're at?
The wind's getting slightly annoying. I agree. It's a beautiful day outside. I went outside earlier, and the wind's just kind of in your face the whole time. It can calm down a little bit, but it's nice to see the sun.
Yes, sir. We're excited because we've got the return of our good friend Mr. Ricardo Calvario of his YouTube channel, History, Myths, and Legends. He's also I don't know exact title, but he's the guy who runs the show at the Institute for Natural Philosophy, as well as one of the editors for Pharos Magazine, which is a new magazine that covers all things ancient history. He's the author of the book Resonant Earth, Ancient Technologies of Telluric Energy and Consciousness. And he's kind of come on the show in about 30, 40 minutes for a guest segment and talk about his new book.
Awesome. Ricardo's one of the first new friends that we made after we started this venture. So it's great to keep in touch with him. It's great to keep working with him.
Yeah, for sure. He's definitely connected us to a lot of cool people and opened a lot of doors for us at the beginning of this journey. So we're pumped about it.
Want to say hello to everybody that's watching us on YouTube, Facebook, X, Instagram, wherever else. Welcome to the chat. Leave us a comment in the chat. Hey, we had a bunch of new subscribers on YouTube this past week, Dave. How many did we get?
Yeah, there's one there. I don't know if he's subscribed yet to the YouTube channel, but what's up, East 10? He saw us through Ricardo's post. Very cool. Thank you for joining the chat. Where are you joining from there, Mr. East 10, if you don't mind sharing? Where on the planet are you? So we dropped a banger of an interview on Friday of last week featuring Dr. Greg Little. This guy's a machine. He's written like 60 books. He's an expert on Native American mound culture. We dropped his episode, and within a week we ended up with 41 new subscribers in a week. That's the biggest bump we've had on our small channel. So thank you so much to Greg Little and to all of our new subscribers. If you're new to the show tonight, let us know who you are and where you're watching from and that kind of thing and how you're doing tonight. Thank you so much for joining the show. And with that being said, like we kind of wanted to, for all the new people, maybe kind of talk about what is Mike and Dave's Multiverse and how did it get started, right?
That's a great idea. If you're new to the show and you're watching and you're like, who the heck are these guys and what on earth are they talking about? Well, we cover a little bit of everything. Dave and I are super interested in like the history of humankind, the history of planet Earth, the history of the climate on Earth, all this sort of ancient stuff. And then we're also interested in cutting edge science and technology. We're interested in like understanding the mysteries of consciousness itself. Basically, all the cool stuff that you want to get into. And we met each other at a conference last year called Cosmic Summit. Cosmic Summit was sort of a cross between maybe like academic conference, but also is more like a podcast with a little more flash, a little more entertainment. It's like walking into a podcast for 3 days, and me and Dave met up there. And then a few months later, we decided to start a show of our own.
Yeah, I was like stretching on the floor one day and I was thinking, why can't I start I can start a podcast. Why can't I? But I was like, I don't want to do it by myself. And I was like, oh, Mike's into all the same stuff I am. And I sent Mike a text. What were you doing in that moment that you got that text?
I was actually out down by the river, standing on a rock, looking at the sun and kind of thinking about how I wanted to do something. And I was just sort of open to doing something new at that time on that day.
Yeah. And
the next time I looked at my phone, like a few minutes later, there was the text, let's start a podcast. So okay, it's time to go.
Yeah. I did want to say hey to Don Davidson. He's one of our longstanding watchers. He's been watching from the beginning. He's in Ottawa. Mild temps are melting the snow finally. My mother lives in Ottawa, and she's just been telling me they just get smashed with snow for like a month now. So glad you guys are getting some relief there. That's my Uncle Don. We also got Gary Floyd joining for the second time in a row. That's my old man. He's in Gainesville, Georgia. What's up, Dad? Thanks for joining the show.
Welcome.
Yep. Also, Mr. East 10, he said, I sub. Nice to meet y'all. He's from East Tennessee. That's where he's got the name East 10. His actual name is Cody. Can't wait to watch the show. Thanks, bro. Thanks for all the support. So Mike kind of described a little bit about what the live stream is, the things we like to talk about there, and also to mention we occasionally have featured guests. Like tonight we have Ricardo, and we'll usually bring people on, friends of the show, or people who want to introduce a new book, or they've got something interesting to talk about. But we do something else, which we're very proud of, and we work really hard on. It's our series of interviews called Humans of the Multiverse. And the first thing I wanted to say about Humans of the Multiverse is basically all are welcome. We don't subscribe to what anybody necessarily says on our interview series. We want to hear everyone's story. We want to hear people from all walks of life, all across the multiverse. We want to hear about religion. We want to hear about stories of resilience. We want to hear about ancient history. If you're a scientist and you have a cool job in science, we want to hear about that. So if you're an interesting and honest person and you've got a cool story to share, you can come on our show, Humans of the Multiverse.
And by that we mean we're never trying to change anybody's mind about anything. We respect everybody's viewpoints and beliefs, and we think it's important to bring everybody's viewpoints into a conversation where we can all listen to each other and learn together and synthesize some new information.
That's right, Mike. And so the combination of the live stream and the Humans of the Multiverse series, which is taped, and we release weekly episodes at 6 p.m. Eastern. That's what we're trying to do: bring people together, bring ideas together. A good example of the variety you guys might see on Humans of the Multiverse is just this Tuesday. We interviewed a former police officer, firefighter, paramedic, and Navy SEAL who's now a mental health counselor who helps people with trauma and addiction. And then a few hours later, we interviewed a dude who it says he was abducted by a UFO, and he tells us the whole story about it. So that's sort of the broad range of things that you might see on our series of Humans of the Multiverse. What's happening on Friday? Who we got dropping on Friday, Mike?
Friday, Reverend Bonnie Tarwater. Is that it coming out?
Yeah, Reverend Bonnie Tarwater. She's a friend. She's the wife of a good friend of mine, Walt Rutherford. Yep. He was one of our first episodes. Walt was. Our production level isn't as good at the early stages, but the episode is really good. The content is great. Walt's a great storyteller.
It was a blast getting to know Walt. I felt like I was right there in the room with him, and hope to meet him and Bonnie in person one day. We had a really fun time.
We did, and he's a Vietnam veteran, and he tells stories about that time for him that'll really kind of knock your socks off. So be prepared for that if you go back and listen to it. But Bonnie is his wife, and together they run an eco church. It's basically they're trying to combine caring for the earth with Christianity, and it's a really interesting concept that we wanted to hear more about. And Bonnie is a very interesting lady, and she's led a very interesting life. And we hope you guys really enjoy the episode tomorrow. Right now, I'm going to show a YouTube short that's available on YouTube right now, but I'm going to show it to you guys. Just a little sneak peek of the episode. So let's check that out. And here we go. Let's check it out.
Getting an opportunity to travel and live in so many different places and see so many different cultures. Even as a little kid, were there some things you noticed that were similar in other parts of the world, in different belief systems and different cultures?
Everybody celebrates. Everybody has festivals. Everybody loves to sing and dance and eat together. And all cultures have sacred practices of contemplation. Those are the two areas that I think are such universals that as a secular modern culture, we just kind of forgot here, particularly in the West. And, you go to any culture in Africa and South America, in Asia, and it's much more palatable that people have community celebrations. They have traditions where they gather as families and as communities. So we are so lonely and isolated in our modern world.
And yeah, that's Bonnie right there. And we had a wonderful conversation with her, and we're really looking forward to dropping her episode tomorrow. We got a couple other cool ones coming up. What's up? What's on the docket the week after that, Mike?
I think it'll be Mr. Adam Butler, who we talked about a couple times.
Oh yeah, here's his book, DMT, Butler's DMT Field Guide. He very interesting guy with a very interesting story about using psychedelic drugs to change his life for the better. We don't necessarily condone or not condone the use of psychedelic drugs on this show for that reason, but listen to his story, check out his book, and we're looking forward to dropping that one next week. Anything else?
We think it's important. If anybody else could benefit from hearing it, we want to share it with as many people as possible. And like you mentioned earlier about Walt, we do have some stories that'll knock your socks off. And if you ever see anything that makes you uncomfortable, just hit skip, because we keep on cruising too. And we're going to find out everything we can and share it with everybody. You know it?
Yes, sir. And Don said he loved the episode with Walt. Walt's episode is still on fire. Like, that's literally still gaining views. It's our highest viewed episode so far. So that must count for something, right?
Yep.
So, hey, Mike, what's on your mind? Anyway, what's on your mind? What's been on your mind for a few months? I think it's been on a lot of people's minds.
I'm missing the cue here. I don't know.
Oh, you're good, bro. We were just leading into the savings time.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That's next on the docket.
Yeah, let's go right to it. So, great question. Let me find the right. I got to lead.
Didn't mean to throw Mike under the bus there.
Well, I was gonna hit solar weather, and let me just flash that up real quick. So we tend to do segments. It might seem like it bounces all over the place on these weekly live streams, but we try to have a common thread of what we're covering, whether it's weather, solar weather, or astronomy. So I just wanted to show up. Solar weather's been quiet the last few days. However, last week and over the weekend, there was a geomagnetic storm on Earth. So if you felt like you were sleeping weird or having a strange mood, all that stuff is affected by a geomagnetic system in the global electric circuit. It's important to be aware of that. And Dave and I aren't experts on it, but we know it's important and we want to share it with people. And as we learn things, we'll teach it to everybody too. So, yeah, for sure. And I definitely was having weird dreams this week. Maybe that has something to do with it. Did anybody else feel any strange effects from the geomagnetic storms going on? If you do, let us know in the chat. I don't chalk it all up to the solar activity because I had some other sleep hygiene things that were poor in the past week. For sure. I didn't really sleep worth a flip. So maybe that had added a little bit to it. I don't know. Yeah. But, we do like to cover the planet, what's happening on the planet, what's happening around the planet as far as weather-wise, what's in our cosmic environment, which we'll get to in a little bit. So, yeah. Anyhow, I had an important topic that I wanted to hit this week before this weekend. And you'll see why it's important that we hit it this week and not after next week. But I pulled up this first. Did you know that there's over 8.7 million species of plants and animals, of creatures on Earth, Dave? I did not. For some reason, I figured there'd be more. Like, I feel like there's a shitload of bugs, isn't there? Bugs, and then plants, fungi. Trying to move us to the top here. So 2.616 are animals. Got it. Yeah, and then 2.16 of them are animals. A million of them. Over 2 million species of animals on planet Earth. I wonder what takes up the most of them? Not animals, but the most species. Oh, shoot, that's a good question. It's probably either insects or fungi. I'm betting. Well, and then this is sort of a breakdown by number of species. Another way to look at it is by mass, which I've heard that like bugs outnumber humans by mass. I don't know, 1 jillion to 1 as far as the sheer number. Like pounds. Yeah, that's what I had in my head when I first saw 8.7 million, but I was thinking individual. Okay, well, I said all that to say that of the over 2 million species of animals on planet Earth, we consider ourselves to be among, if not the smartest of the animal kingdom, kings of the animal kingdom.
So supposedly, yeah.
There's only one species of animal on planet Earth that gets confused about where the sun is located at. Daylight savings time is coming up this weekend, Dave. What do you think about daylight savings time?
Well, my thoughts on daylight savings time are really rather benign. Like, to me, there's like this big cultural discussion on we got to get rid of daylight savings time. We got to get rid of it, or no, we need to keep it. Let's stay permanent standard. Let's stay daylight savings. And for me, I kind of get over it after a couple of days. Like once the clock changes, after a day or two, I forget about it. It's not something that I think about. However, there is an argument, in my opinion, that like, it affects our health, our biology, right?
Right.
What time we get up and all that stuff, right? To me, it's just, I feel like I'd rather have the Epstein files than that, than change that. That seems a little more important to me. But
I'm with you. We shouldn't even be having the daylight time discussion anymore. I hate to have it all the time, but I try to have it so we can get it over with. You know?
but Mike, what is the point? What are we even talking about here?
So like clocks are meant to tell time, and I pulled up some images to help illustrate what this is. I'll share this one instead. The clocks are basically telling you where the sun is at relative to where you're at on the face of the earth. So when the sun is directly overhead where you're standing, that's called noon. And when it's on the far other end of the planet, like the opposite end of the planet, that's midnight. And you can slice it and dice it into 12 or 24 hours in between just to help keep track of things. It's convenient, right? With the advent of like railroad transportation, we needed to organize time zones because we started moving fast enough to need to keep track of these things. And then I don't know at what point daylight savings time got involved. I've read this, that, and the other about how it was an energy crisis or it was Benjamin Franklin and the farmers. But it's absurd. No matter where you set your clock to, there's only 24 hours in a day. So you might as well call noon what it really is. And then, and if you need to adjust your daily habits to accommodate something or the other, go for it. But don't tell me I got to change my clock.
Yeah, I typically don't change my clock, and it doesn't affect me really one way or the other.
Well, and I guess maybe when we were growing up, that was important because we didn't have clocks that automatically change themselves. But my phone, my tablet, my computer, even my TV, once I turn my TV on after daylight savings time, it's going to update its own clock after a minute.
Right.
So like, I don't go change my thermostat clock or my oven, even my car. Sorry about the car. That throws people off sometimes, but like, I'm too lazy to change it. I know what time it is, and I know where the sun is at. So,
right. And I guess the point really is that, why is this such a big deal? And we're not like, if you got an opinion on this in the chat and it's a big deal to you for one reason or another, we're not trying to put you down. Let us know why it's important to you in the chat.
We want to know, and there are arguments on both sides. Arguments for standard time include boatloads of medical data about the circadian health of humans that affect your sleep, both your sleeping, metabolic health, like basically all the above. Boatloads of good, solid scientific evidence that standard time is the best way to live. And on the daylight savings time side, and I've read both sides of these arguments, mainly on the internet. There's a professional poker player named Nate Silver, who's a pretty cool guy, and he's written some books about statistics. But he performed some statistical economic analysis saying that daylight savings time was better. But I don't know, Dave. Professional poker players, don't they play cards late at night in a dark room wearing sunglasses? That's like 3 layers between them and the sun. Don't tell me where the sun's at, man.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like a personal adult choice that you should make for yourself.
Not something the government should dictate. You're right. Last but not least, I just wanted to throw this out there. If we're going to straighten things out, we might as well straighten things out. Time zones themselves are a little bit gerrymandered. Like ideally, noon should be defined when the sun is across this stripe here across the United States. The standard time zones are a little bit off, which means that when you go into daylight savings mode, you could be up to 90 minutes off from the actual solar time where you're at.
Right.
So let me shout out Save Standard Time. This is savestandardtime.com. This guy has been organizing what do you call those things that you sign? Everybody starts signing together.
Petitions.
Petitions, yeah, in various states. In a bunch of states, unfortunately, Georgia had not, as far as I know, but a bunch of states are going to get rid of it. It would only take one quick executive order, maybe tomorrow. There's plenty of time tomorrow. It's Friday. It's still a business day. Let's throw out a quick executive order and get rid of it,
I personally think that I would be happy if I didn't have to change anything. I don't care which one they choose. But like it should reflect where the sun's at least.
Yeah. Chronic sleep deprivation turns out it's not good for the body.
No, and we evolved to wake up with the sun and go to bed with the sun. It's good for us. So that's obvious.
If you don't want to fool with fancy statistics or studies, just remember this: noon is when the sun's straight overhead. It's very simple. And with that, I'll get off my soapbox.
Yeah, it's funny because Mike and I share an X account, and our X account is like for Mike and Dave's Multiverse is filled with daylight savings time stuff. And eventually I was like, where's all this coming from? And Mike's like, I hate daylight savings time.
I'm a militant supporter of standard time on the internet. So yeah.
Yeah. So I couldn't figure out. I was like, I don't care about this. Why is this on here? Not that I don't care. I prefer we just choose one as a culture and let it go. I've seen some polls online, and it seems to be like leaning towards permanent standard time. It's like a 60-40 thing that most polls are showing. So
it should be a no-brainer.
Yeah.
A landslide.
Yep. We got 35 people either watching or started watching. If you're new to the show, like we mentioned earlier, like we had 41 new subscribers, say hi in the chat. Let us know where you're watching from. And thank you so much for joining the show. One of the first things we covered on this show and mentioned on this show was the stranded astronauts. Their names being Butch Butch Wilmore and Suni Williams. They've been stranded, I guess, since September. No, let me check here. Let me double check. So they launched to the ISS on June 5th, 2024. Let me show you who they are. Get a look at these handsome, brave Americans here. I lost my file. Don't worry, hang tight, guys.
All good.
Hang tight. Yeah, these are them. This is my thing. I love space news, rocketry, the solar system. I love studying that kind of thing. While I was looking this kind of thing up, I literally could not find an article that wasn't extremely partisan about this. And Mike and I are a bipartisan show, by the way. We don't take sides politically on this show. And there's a lot going back and forth that Biden left them stranded. Now Trump and Elon are going to save them. No, that's a lie. Yada, yada, yada. The one thing I will say about that in the digging around that I did today is that there's no. So essentially what happened was they launched on June 5th, but there was some mechanical issues that made it so that they weren't able to come back. And SpaceX was tasked in September to bring them back. So they launched some astronauts in September in what's called a Dragon SpaceX Crew 9 ship, or it's Dragon, or it's Dragon SpaceX Crew 9 ship, and they're scheduled to come bring them back sometime here in March, depending on the day. And a few days ago, Elon was on Joe Rogan and stirred a hornet's nest by saying that he offered to bring them back. And the Biden administration turned it down. I could not find any credible evidence on that. It doesn't mean it's not true. But I just wanted to point that out there if anybody's wondering, because this is kind of a hot button topic. I'm not trying to make it a hot button topic. I'm trying to push that aside because I just want to tell you guys about the mission. So, so the retrieval involves the SpaceX Crew 9 Dragon capsule, which launched on the 28th of September. It had 2 other astronauts and 2 empty seats that were for Wilmore and Williams, the 2 that are, quote, stranded. The capsule is docked with the ISS, and it's been there since September 30th. The plan is to bring them back sometime at the end of this month. And I wanted to show a little bit of how they're going to do that. So this is a little bit of info on this mission. It's for sending humans to space and cargo into space. They've completed 49 missions, 44 visits to the ISS, total reflights 28. It's a spacecraft capable of carrying up to 7 passengers to and from Earth orbit and beyond. It's the only spacecraft currently flying that's capable of returning significant amounts of cargo to Earth. And it's the first private spacecraft to take humans to the space station. That's pretty cool. Here's some dimensions on this thing. It's not very big. What do you think, Mike? I figured it would be bigger than that.
That is pretty small.
Yeah. But it can carry a lot, up 3,000 kg. That seems like a lot. Tight seats. So
seats, but that's got to be really close together.
Yep. And you can learn more by going to spacex.com/vehicle/dragons. We'll put the link in the bottom. It's equipped with this 16 Draco thrusters used to orient the spacecraft during the mission, including apogee and perigee maneuvers, orbit, hopefully I said that right, orbit adjustment and altitude control. And let's check. You guys want to see how it works? Mike, you want to see how it works?
Yeah.
All right, let's check it out. So that bad boy is going to land off the coast of Florida very soon. And I got to share something really cool. SpaceX is actually live right now, and in 40 seconds, they are going to launch their 8th Starship test flight. So let's watch it together before we bring on Ricardo. And we are counting down live. Can you guys see that, Mike?
Very cool. Yes. I think you could make it bigger if you want.
Okay. It looks like they're on pause for at the 40-second mark for final launch checkouts. So let me tell you a little bit about this. Yeah, going 38 seconds now.
Goes. Yeah, the camera was moving, but the seconds weren't dropping for a moment.
I think they were on pause. I'm going to make it bigger. Let's do that. So I wanted to tell you guys a little bit about this, but I lost my tab. So let's find it in another space.
Have y'all heard that wild story about Werner von Braun writing a book about some dude named Elon taking people to Mars? That one out there.
Yes.
It's one of the wilder things out there. I got to get my hands on it or read a script of it or something. Whoa, here we go.
Yeah. So we do this a lot. We usually show what happened last week, but the timing of today, because this is literally happening right now, was perfect. So this is our first one watching live, or no?
I think it is, because a month ago, I think when Jason Quick came on the show, there was a launch but it was like an hour before or after our show.
Yeah, that's right. But yeah,
timing.
Very good timing. They've done a bunch of tests. This is their 8th. The last one was it's called repeated the booster. They tried to repeat the booster catch, whatever that means, but the ship broke apart due to a propulsion system failure from harmonic stress and propellant leaks. Debris fell over the Caribbean Ocean, prompting an FAA investigation. So that's what happened last time. This is the 8th test. Hopefully nothing blows up. My dad still wants to go to Mars at 72 years old. He's been saying that since I was a little kid. What's up, Dad? Yeah. Yeah, hopefully this thing doesn't blow up. But it's just incredible. We can watch this in like 9K or whatever this is. It looks so amazing. Come on, don't blow up. Don't blow
Very
up.
good point. Because even the iconic NASA rocket launches of the past, they definitely had video feed. Maybe not coming from the rocket. They probably had a lot of video feeds, but like this is top-notch technology. We're streaming this over the internet as soon as it happens. Not watching grainy footage of the rocket launching in the distance.
Yeah, and the whole point of this Starship program is an effort to create a reusable rocket system designed for interplanetary travel and heavy lift missions. It consists of 2 stages: the super heavy booster and the Starship spacecraft, also often called the Starship. The program aims to drastically reduce spaceflight costs through the rapid reusability, with goals including carrying up to 150 tons and 100 passengers, enabling missions to the moon. And supporting commercial uses like Starlink satellite deployment. But really, this is all about Mars, guys, because if you can't send people to Mars without reusable rocket capability, then they can't come home. Okay, and so that's a big part of this. So far, so good.
Yeah, getting pretty far out there.
It's funny how it said it blew up because of harmonic resonance or something. It's rather serendipitous because of Ricardo and his book coming on soon.
It's always the harmonic resonance. That's what gets the those bridges.
Yeah, we are vibrational beings, are we not?
Most definitely.
The universe is vibrating. So we get a couple different angles here. If Ricardo is ready, he can go ahead and jump in the queue, and we'll let him in when he's ready. But it looks like so far a successful mission. There's nobody on this, so if it did blow up, it would be a massive waste of money, but kind of spectacular to see at the same time.
Yep.
Is Ricardo actually in the space? Yeah, there he is. Cool.
Just hopped in. So this is what you can expect for all the new viewers. Once again, we thank you. Each week, Dave and I, we go live and try to pull up a variety. There's a cool science article, podcast, space news, history news. We should pull a weather report, solar weather, earthquake activity, a little bit of this and a little bit of that. We don't have time to cover everything every week, and we're not experts at everything, but we're inviting everyone to come along with us as we learn more about it. So,
and if you are an expert on some of the stuff we're talking about, please come on the show and tell us about it.
Yeah.
I'll keep you guys updated as I'll check back in on that. But Mike, tell us a little bit about Ricardo before we bring him in.
Ricardo, well, his YouTube channel, History, Myths, and Legends. He founded the Institute of Natural Philosophy and started Pharos magazine. We've had the pleasure of interviewing a few of the writers for Pharos magazine, a few of the folks that wrote for the first episode. And shoot, Ricardo's our friend from Portugal. We've talked with him online several times now. Y'all might have seen him on the show, and we're fast friends.
Let's bring him on. There's the man. What's up, Ricardo? How's it going?
Good evening. How are you, Dave? Mike, how are you too?
We are well. We are well on planet Earth today. I know I am. I had an awesome day. Mike, how was your day?
Oh, it was great. Doing good. Thank you. And congratulations on publishing your new book.
Yeah. Hey, I have a surprise for you, Ricardo, because It came in the mail today.
It did.
Your book.
Wow.
Yes. How fast is that? There's Ricardo's book, The Resonant Earth. It literally came in the mail today, like an hour before Amazon. Sorry, an hour before the show. So it's called The Resonant Earth: Ancient Technologies of Telluric Energy and Consciousness, and he's here to talk about that book with us today.
Thank you. And I forgot to tell good evening to everyone. I'm sorry.
No worries, man. No
I've
worries.
been with you guys for the last half an hour, so I was already there. So I forgot.
What's it like on planet Earth in Portugal today?
So today was supposed to rain, but it didn't. So it was rather good.
Nice. Is it still winter time there or what?
Oh yes, it will be.
So
yeah,
it's cold.
No, it doesn't get that cold. Where I live, during the night it can get to -2, 3, 4 at an extreme. But our medium temperature here is in winter is around between 16, 12 if it is cold, and rarely comes below that. Well, now it's coming to below and above because the weather is clearly changing. It's not anthropomorphic, let me say it, but it is clearly changing.
Got it. So
by the way, -3C, that's about 26 degrees Fahrenheit for our American viewers. We're bilingual on this channel.
Yes. Sorry for that.
So let me read the title of the book really quick and ask you a quick question, just broadly speaking, for the audience who might not know what some of this stuff means. The Resonant Earth: Ancient Technologies of Telluric Energy and Consciousness. Tell the audience, what is telluric energy, Ricardo?
Okay, so telluric energies is what most people know by the name of ley lines. Okay. So ley lines are a conductive crystalline matrix that flows on top and beneath the ground. What more can I tell you about it? They are very very different kinds of telluric energy. So let's put it this way: you have the Becken and Huygens grid, that is the most complex. Is one that passed through 3 different groups investigating this. So the first one just put a dodecahedron on top of the Earth, and lo and behold, it matched with a certain number of ancient sites. And then a Russian team came and decided to put another very complex geometric form on top of that grid, and found more sites that exactly on where those lines intersected. And then it was Becker and Huygens that lately, after that, not lately, brought it public, because they add even another more layer of geometric forms on top of the Earth, and they managed to see that the nodes that are facing from this type of sacred geometry are representative of most of the sites we know as possible being active in the past.
Cool. And so I know that the book, and I haven't read it in full. I got a PDF of it a couple of days ago, and I tried my best to dig into it. And I just got my copy. But the book connects this energy and these ley lines and this telluric energy to ancient sites, and that's what the book's about, correct?
So imagine this: that book tries to describe an ancient site as something that starts embedded in high technology, evolved culture, and somewhat a technology of peace. So first of all, it's complex because it involves the selection of the location as the first point, where you have to, even today, you cannot find you're laughing from my comment.
Yeah.
Sorry, I can't resist. I love flat earthers. I just love them.
They're the best.
So first of all, you have to know where these nodes are. And to know that, today we are still very limited into understanding how to find these spots. We are now finding them by using a multidisciplinary approach with very telomeric instruments that are able, by the combination of those data, to produce a result. But back then, we don't know how they did it. So it's amazing that they managed to find them. So getting a little bit out of topics, but so that people understand, for instance, the Olmec would quarry stone where they saw lightning strike the ground, because they knew it would turn the stone magnetic. Why they wanted the stone magnetic? Well, that's another question. But the heads, all of those pieces of art, most of them are magnetic because of this. So this leads into the second step. You now have the location. You need the mineralogy. The mineralogy will be dependent of what you want to create as functionalities. But most of these sites we see, they choose stones that are rich in quartz crystals. You'll see even certain stones that are called the sarsen stones, that, as I debated even with academics, it's a misleading name, because a sarsen stone is not a stone at all. Is a crystal with a grade of purity whose minimum is 99.3% of pure quartz crystal, meaning you cannot find it purer because it only has 0.7% of impurities. So it shouldn't be a sarsen stone, it should be a sarsen crystal. So when people go to Stonehenge, when they go to West Kennet Long Barrow, when they go to the cairns, they find these sarsen stones. What they are touching is a gigantic crystal, as the purest as it can be, although it's not polished, so we don't see the crystal that we are used to, but that is the purest you can get. So, and it isn't shiny or beautiful. So once you establish where you're going to quarry your stone for the functionalities you are looking for, you have to use sacred geometry to build the site. So it's another level of technology, another level of culture that also includes mathematics, obviously. Probably more linked to the Fibonacci sequence than to what we understand by the 0 to 10 scale that we use. But what is a fact, it is we see several sites having a 4/3 geometry, and this 4/3 geometry is not coincidental, because it reproduces 4/3 music or harmonics. So when you put the two things together, the odds of being a coincidence is, as I say, coincidence takes planning. It's one of my recurrent saying. Go ahead.
One thing I was thinking, because one of the big questions people always ask about these ancient sites is, why did they quarry this particular rock that's so far away and then move it all the way to this particular spot? And your book explains that, right, very clearly, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
From Stonehenge to Giza and in numerous other places across the globe.
Exactly. And after that, you have the alignments, which is another level of profound knowledge that we don't credit them for. And yet, archaeoastronomy is a science more than established. It's just not considered by archaeologists.
Right.
But it is. So what that means is that they are not only building a structure that will use the node of energy of these telluric energies that we've been speaking, they are using alignments to also use cosmic energy. So in specific times of the year, these energies will be stronger. The functionalities of the site will be different or wider or whatever it is, but it is different. You see this in the city of Alatri in Italy. You see that these gates are not only activated by the position of the sun in regarding to the position that they are around the city, they also have this magnetic vortex that academics discovered that tunes your mind accordingly to a specific frequency. So all of this is intentional. All of this is purposeful. None of this is random.
Right.
And
Could
just
I
go
show an
ahead.
example? Could I show an example of like those alignments really quick?
Sure,
Just
absolutely.
one from one of my favorite documentaries of all time, Graham Hancock's Quest for the Lost Civilization, and this is at the site in. Hold on, I'll just play it. I'll just play it quick. This is one of my favorite sites in the world too. I'm just brain farting on what it's called.
We can witness the brilliant planning of the master architects and astronomers who suddenly appeared in Cambodia just over 1,000 years ago. This mysterious Southeast Asian civilization has unexplained similarities to the civilizations of ancient Egypt and ancient Mexico.
So I just wanted to show that alignment quick, as well as like mention in Mexico at Chichen Itza with the snake and stuff like that. When archaeologists say this stuff is a coincidence, it just seems, how many coincidences could you have at the same time, right, Ricardo?
Sure. Look, the problem is this: academics are taught to believe that we are at our most advanced right now.
This particular version of advanced
Exactly.
civilization,
It's the most
best one that
advanced
ever happened. Yeah.
So that has several problems, and let me explain why. And people might be thinking, "Oh, he's going to talk rubbish now," but I ain't, because
Angkor Wat. Sorry, it's
Angkor
called
Wat.
Angkor
Yes,
Wat. My
Angkor
bad.
Wat. I'm not, because first of all, development requires definition. So what is development? Is it a phone, or is the cultural level, or is the society type? Okay, so we still war. Is that evolved? I don't think it is. It's quite barbaric.
Yep.
Right? So it's not civilized at all. And second, we are the most advanced we ever been, I agree, on our type of technology. But that doesn't mean that there are no other ways of create technology. Technology advancements that are not based on silica, and that's.
You can keep talking. I just wanted to show this while you're talking.
Oh, it's the shadows. So,
Yeah.
and that's what I expose in this book, is the fact that there was a very sophisticated type of technology that, instead of using artificial means to produce it, it used nature itself to make it work. So it is using the laws of nature, the energy of nature, to influence nature itself and man and its consciousness. And now we made a full circle regarding to your question.
Yeah. And so draw me a parallel between, this technology that we don't quite understand as a civilization today and human consciousness. How are they connected?
Okay, so not sure if this will answer your question, but I'll try.
Mike's raising his hand.
Go on, Mike.
Let me just share a slide and go ahead and say what you were going to say. I'm going to share this. Just throw it out there.
Okay. So let me see if I get out of this hole, because I concentrated on you and forgot what I was going to say.
I'm sorry. Then let me say what I was thinking about. Electrical and magnetic influence on the surface of the earth. It doesn't stop at the surface. It's not just beneath the earth. It extends up through the atmosphere, past the clouds, up into outer space. This is the very same circuitry and grid system that connects those of us living on the surface of the earth to the sun itself.
Exactly.
This is all interconnected.
Yes.
It doesn't stop at the ground.
There is no separation between me and you, Mike, or you, Dave, although we are in 3 different places. And that is called quantum entanglement, that I also have explained in the book, and is also in the, if you go to the finish of to the back page of back part of the book, the finish, you'll find that I included a glossary so that people understand all of these terms. And there's notes on the book so that people can understand them. So,
yeah, quantum entanglement is one of those things that kind of gets misunderstood a lot, but essentially it's provable in in a lab that one particle can affect another particle no
No,
matter the distance.
it doesn't affect them. They just exhibit the exact same behavior and the exact same state independent of their distance, as long as the quantum entanglement is maintained, that quantum coherence. So regarding your question, so for instance, at the very extreme of our science, we are now trying with success to put information into crystal. We're trying to create these qubits that are the term for the elements of information in a quantum computer. So they are managing to put this into small crystals. And the crystals, what they find is that the crystals, by the way, they are doing it by several ways, including by sound, and by including, there is vibration, and by laser imprint. So what happens is that they find that these crystals, and anyone can go and look for this, are retaining the information that is given or recorded there for long periods of time, and with no virtual, there is no degradation. Okay, if it is minimal and doesn't affect the information. So now imagine these ancient sites like West Kennet Long Barrow, for instance, or Newgrange, and you find that these sites create a system of after the trident of frequencies is introduced, and we can go to that if you wish, they enter exactly on this state that is produced by standing waves, that produces the quantum entanglement, the easy zone for the water that lies beneath the site. So all of this creates a situation where the ritual that is being performed, the intentions of the person's presence in the ritual, be them to share information or to obtain information, this is all being conducted from their minds to the stone. And seems quite ridiculous, but there is one thing that you can look for, or it is also in the book, that is called vibrational imprinting. And vibrational imprinting is not something that is false. It's more than proven that it happens. So is when you can, by thought, imprint something, in this case, it is by thought, into something else. And so all of these intentions, all of these rituals, all of this information is all stored on the stone. So when you keep telling the same tale and revisiting, when people enter into these states of enhanced awareness, or how should I call it, transcendent states, altered states of consciousness, they can either place information or take information, or even to pass that information from one place to the other. So when we start questioning ourselves, why is that these special days are in the same day for every single culture? So how does it happen if there wasn't no connection before? And we know that they date well back in time. So it's obvious that, for instance, when you have the equinoxes or you have the solstices, that these gatherings on these sites and these rituals performed inside were not just for that community, but it was connecting all the communities that were in similar sites with the same capabilities. I presume that's why you see the same elements and the same petroglyphs in these sites, like the spirals or the snakes, or all of these are inductive or
handbags.
Well, the handbags, it's outside of any of the fields that I include in the in the book.
I just know that they show up in multiple places.
Oh yes, they do. But that's so speculative that it's very hard, because there is hard evidence that those bags, for instance, at least in certain places of the world, are culturally used when they go and pollinate certain trees, for instance. It was a ritual. So, but it doesn't explain other parts of the world where that plant doesn't exist. But but it's a tricky topic. It's a tricky topic.
I want to shout out Piano and Dante. He or she, I never know, and he never tells us. But they're here all the time. They watch us every week, and we really appreciate the support. So thank you so much, Ricardo. Graham Hancock explains a lot, and other people as well, similar building styles across cultures and across time, by possibly like messengers who survived biblical or ancient floods and passed ancient knowledge on. Do you think, how does, I guess what I'm asking is, because when you're talking about this, I'm in people doing the same rituals at similar sites for the same reason. Is that also another coincidence that's not a coincidence, that the building style is very similar?
Well, the first thing we did at the Institute was to write a paper called SOS Statement of Significance, Global Hallmarks. Why? Because we'll find the same hallmarks represented in all areas of the world at different times, sometimes coinciding times, but there is no historical justification for the same things, and it's not one or two. So we only put 16, but we know of at least 86. So it's too much to be a coincidence that, as several academics tells us, that they all got to the same conclusions at relatively at the same time. So although that agrees with the theory of Rupert Sheldrake that we get information from past experiences, as the experience of the mouses that is on our interview, I believe, that we did. So if people wanted to hear about the mouse experiment, where it proves this, they can go there and see it. This can slightly explain how they all got to the same thing at the same time. But then we have all other indications that shows us that it doesn't need to be so. It doesn't need to be something so out there, because transoceanic traveling was being done far way into the past, behind the 1500s, that we are told that it emerged. So you have the treasure ships from the Chinese. You have, to me, the crown jewel of all evidence is the fact that you have megaliths in the Azores. So if you have megaliths in the Azores that are dated at a minimum of 3000 BC, how did they get there? So who built them? They didn't born there for sure, so they had to sail to the middle of the Atlantic. And if they can sail to the middle of the Atlantic in that date, it means that they can do it to the Americas without problem too. But more than that, that group of islands, the Azores, also have hundreds and hundreds of Phoenician anchors on their beaches. So, and all of them have the same diameter hole of 14 centimeters, that I don't know how much it is in inches.
What?
Yes. So
that's not a coincidence.
This is
during the. I was going to say, that reminds me, during the last glacial period, the sea level was something like 300 or 400 feet lower. Florida was connected to the Bahamas. I wonder how accessible the Azores were off the coast of what is now Spain, how closely they were connected.
the distance
During the last ice age, this before that now. Yeah,
the distance between land and island would be the same, but the difference is, if you take in account what Sonsis of Sais told to Solon the Elder, is that the waters were still very murky, and there was lots of land still above the water. So it was a the transoceanic movement would be more like traversing, how should I say it, a small inland ocean or something like that. So it would be very easy to go from island to island. It wouldn't be long before your horizon brings you another place where you feel, okay, I'm secure. There's land there if I want.
Right.
So But in regards to the Phoenicians, and that brings us to the Bronze Age, there's no doubt that they were crossing the Atlantic. The problem is there are so many people that build their careers in the fact that transoceanic movement only started in the 1500s,
That's so
that
crazy.
it's very hard for them to say, okay, I was wrong. But that's exactly my point. The academic or the scientific perspective is to want to be wrong, not to want to be right. Because when you're right, you learn something and stop there. But if you find out that you were wrong, you will learn something more that can lead to more things where you are wrong. Because it's all a castle of cards. It's supported by pillars that have no scientific fundament at all. But at all our science, all of it, physics, all of it is based on very, very flimsy structure. And we are each time we have a new instrument and detects faraway things and more faraway things, they start to see that all we know is wrong. We are going back to Lloyd Pye that said all you know is wrong, because our bases are fundamentally or possibly fundamentally wrong, and that makes everything else wrong. It works because it's like a television. No one knows how it works. No one, not even those that make it. No one knows how a screen works.
Right.
They just know that if you connect this wire here and that little bit of welding there, and you create this circuit, it will bring you information to an image. But how it works in practice, no one knows. And our technology is the same. Our science is the same. It works because we follow the procedure that tells us that you can go back and do it mathematically. It will always be right, but it doesn't mean it is correct. It just means it fits on our mathematics. It fits on our current understanding of science.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry for the rant.
No, we like the rants.
It's a good illustration, and let me expound on that a little bit. You said like television. Let's pretend for a moment that I'd never seen a television before in my life, and you gave me one. You put me in a room with a TV and a remote, and I didn't know anything about it. I can use the scientific method and be very, very sure of the fact that when I press the power button, it turns on. When I press the channel button, it changes channels. And I can come in and try to tell Dave, hey, I figured this whole TV thing out. I did science on it. I did science. And every time I press the volume button, the volume goes up. And I could have a completely false explanation and understanding of how it works. That doesn't mean at least I can definitely turn the volume up if you need to. If you need me to change a channel, I can do it. But that doesn't mean I completely understand the whole thing. And the other thing you were pointing out, this is so important. The difference between actual scientific thinking and institutional thinking. Scientific thinking is not afraid to be wrong. In fact, it's looking for the things that are wrong or don't add up, because that's where the actual progress of science takes place. Institutional thinking wants to tell you that you're right and don't worry, everything's okay. We're right. All the right stuff's over here. Be in this institution where everything's right. So it's kind of tough to put science in. I mean, we need a vehicle to do science, so we need to fund science and organize science. We have the academic institution, but scientific thinking always questions authority. So great stuff.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, Mike. And you know, when it comes to like archaeology, Ricardo, there are archaeologists doing practicing science, right?
Yep.
But when it comes to the past and the amount of evidence that we have, which is growing and growing every year, you have to make it. You can't make scientific. You can't say this is a fact for something that like you don't have all the information for, right? And that's how that's Mike's analogy for the TV, right? He can't say he understands the TV if he doesn't know how all the pieces work. And so, why do you think there's this divide, and how do you see like technology like the internet and things like that helping us like kind of get out of that way of thinking?
Well, the easiest way for the new media to help us is to bring awareness to the people outside of TV documentaries. So that's why shows like yours and Mike are so important. They are vital to the education of the new masses. Because instead of seeing some sensationalistic program saying how a shark bites a squirrel or whatever it is. We are talking about matters that have some direct influence on how we perceive the world. So without it, the world would be darker. Let me put it this way. So thank you for you to doing this kind of work. And I just wanted to say one more thing regarding the remote, because I immediately saw it when you were talking, is that the first problem will happen when after the 9,999 times that the buttons work, they will not work. Okay. And then you'll say, look, when it doesn't work, the light on the remote also doesn't light up. Is it a coincidence? Let's try another 9,999 times just to see if the light doesn't come up. And only then you'll finally realize, after many, many years of testing, it has some batteries on.
There we go. Let's look for the battery. Let's look for the battery, and let's figure that antenna thing out too. There's more to driving a car than,
some things like metaphorical batteries, like we're talking about, are these ley lines that you're talking about in the book. We didn't know it. Like, our civilization didn't know anything about that, right?
Yep.
And so we discover this quote battery, and we go, then it's like, okay, this kind of changes everything, and we start having to investigate that further. So you're telling me that, or telling us that there's that's not completely understood, but there are smart people working on this.
On what exactly?
Like telluric energy and ley lines and the grid and all that stuff.
That's the amazing thing. The amazing thing, as you can see in the book when you read it, is that we are now trying to replicate the exact same functionalities that were exhibited on these ancient sites by our type of technology. So the one that I put in, that I'm not that fond of, not because I don't see it possible, but because there is not empirical evidence yet. And so I marked the beginning of the chapter saying that that's my least favorite, but I had to put it there because we are now advancing in acoustic levitation. So what was deemed impossible is now seen that it not only is possible, it is us that are too little advanced yet. I don't know how to say it better. We are not advanced yet.
Not advanced enough?
Yeah, they're not advanced enough yet in understanding this principle to start carrying big loads. But this system is now being used for high precision movement of objects. Very light objects, but it is the best way, the most secure way, the most effective way to do this type of levitation of things that they need to be very precise and very tiny and so on. So what these new papers about acoustic levitation are telling us is that as long as we evolve in understanding of this process, we'll be able to lift a container, we'll be able to lift whatever.
Right.
Because there is no limits to can be achieved. It's just something that is in the very beginning. You see, you have an American aviator, but I might be wrong on his origins, that wrote in a report that
what's his name? I'll look him up.
I don't know. Okay. I posted it long ago. I look it for someone and I don't remember.
No worries.
But the fact is, he saw himself somewhat stranded in Tibet. And while going a hill, he observed a series of monks with very long instruments playing these obtuse notes, and the stone was going ahead alone, levitating, going to the temple they were building on the top. So
I was just looking that up on the other side. That's why I was looking away. I've been meaning to look into this. Yeah, Tibetan monks purportedly have this. I found a 2-minute clip off of Gaia, but I can't find any footage of them actually.
I posted the actual source when I posted on X. The problem is X is now ridiculous in terms of search. I
Yeah.
remember 4 months ago, I could search for because I named my posts so that I can search for them and go and get them when I need them. It doesn't work because it doesn't show my posts. It just show the answers of other people to my posts.
When you search.
Yes, and not only that, only a small fraction of them. So I don't find not even my post to the past, nor so I don't know what X is doing in regards to that, but it's very frustrating because I based before I was subscribed, I based all my work on being able to go back and find what I wanted. Yeah.
Right.
Dave and I kind of deal with that each week. Are we going to pull up tabs, save, bookmarks, tweets? all
I
the other-
didn't have bookmarks back then.
Yeah.
Let's check out some acoustic levitation in action quick, guys. This is
Sure.
from Argonne National Laboratory. They discovered a way to use sound waves to levitate individual droplets of solutions containing different pharmaceuticals. So here's the pharmaceutical industry getting in on the action, but it's pretty neat.
Curious to see it.
Just 1 minute. It's a 1 minute clip. So that's pretty cool. But what you're saying is like any technology, once it gets scaled down, meaning it becomes we become more proficient at using it, and it becomes cheaper to produce and whatnot. We'll be able to do that, use that for our own purposes. But it's likely that ancient civilization had some way of doing that, and that's how we can explain lifting some of the crazy monoliths that we've seen them lifting, right?
I don't fully subscribe to that idea.
Uh-huh.
It is a possibility, but as all theories that are interesting, I don't like to see them in an absolutistic
Sure.
way. I
Sure.
like to think that some did it one way, others did it others, that some would be more prolific than others. Although they all knew how to do it, they had different ways to do it, and that brings also some of the changes that we see within the same type of structures from place to place, probably because they did it slightly different in terms of techniques of construction.
Sure.
I'd just like to point out that demonstration looks super fascinating, Dave, and I want to get my hands on that apparatus and test it out myself. But I would observe probably that the amount of like electrical power going into the whole thing was way more than what you really need to, levitate a few droplets of or little, marbles, and that to actually move like massive structures. Think you would need a sonic resonator bigger than the stone you wanted to move so that you could move it around. And it's
Not necessarily, because
Maybe, yeah.
look at this. This is the holy grail of mineralogy, is that idea that some of us have that study these things, that imagine that we can go, and I think I saw Paranomics from Asterix doing this. You just reach a stone with a small harmonic hammer, you hit it in the right place with the right strength, and you create slabs immediately of the stone, or you put it to vibrate. This is the point. Mathematics, science, physics, cannot deny this. If you place any object in a certain vibrational state, it ceases to respond to gravity. It just ceases to respond to gravity because it's there, but it's not there. It's like those particles that we were speaking before, the quantum entanglement. That by the way, that's what was going on with those droplets. And if you see the sino waves, you remember to see the sino waves on the screen. What he was doing is exactly what happens in these sites, because sound starts to bounce on the walls, exciting the crystal matrix of the stone. And when it comes back, it creates what is called a standing wave, which means that every time those nodes cross, you can put a droplet of water.
Yep.
You see now what happens when those lines are crossing? Because those are points in energy terms that are there but are not there, and they are super efficient and super steady, and that's why the droplet doesn't move, although the water is still reacting to the energy that is getting from the sound. So this is what happens within these sites. Is the standing waves is the secret that is obtained through the trident of frequencies, this being the resonant sorry, the Schumann resonance, the 7.83. Then you have the input from the humans that usually is around the between the 100 and the 200 and something. Sometimes.
So can I stop you
Yeah.
quick? So the input from the humans is in the form of chanting in large groups and elevating
Not
consciousness?
necessarily. We have records of the.
Sometimes.
Yes,
Could
it's
be
included. It's
intentional
included.
thought, maybe.
They use drums at about
Okay.
440 beats per second is what Steve Marshall found to be very effective, at least in Scotland and Ireland. They also tried, and with success, bull roarers. I'm not sure if everyone knows what a bull roarer is.
How do you spell that?
A bull roarer. A roarer like the
Okay.
roar of a
Yep.
lion.
Yep.
So
Got it.
that's what Crocodile Dundee used on top of that cliff to call his Aboriginal friend.
I'm going to show a picture of one right now. Australian bull roarer.
Yeah.
There.
This is also a misleading point, because we thought that bull roarers were native to Australia, and they aren't. You can find them everywhere in the megalithic world, and Britain used it, Iberia used it, so the native Indians still use it in more recent times.
So it's chanting, it's instruments, it's and all of it is designed. You're trying to get a certain frequency that matches the site and the construction as well.
Yes,
all together.
And that's it. It's all then is all a matter of tuning, and this enters into a more a very interesting point. That is, how did they tune to create different functionalities from the same place, which means different frequencies. So how they know how? Just think about it. You two think about it for a second. You live in a megalithic world that we don't know what it means, but it means you have no screens, no computers, no devices to tune your guitar, nothing like that. So what is the obvious thing you use to understand you are using the correct frequency?
Mike
Something common to everybody in town. If you can get a natural, like the resonant of the chapel hall or of the bell that tolls downtown, like this, you would start with something that everyone can have access to. Maybe Earth derived.
No, that's not what I'm meaning. I'm saying is, where's your gauge to see that you are reaching the correct frequency and maintain it? You see, just think about it. You need to tune your song to produce
your ear
an effect. No. It's so simple that it is enticing.
A fork.
No, it's cymatics.
Right.
You see that all of these sites have these bowls of water made of the same material, the same crystalline material, that a technology that was brought back to the churches.
So the bowl is the bell. That's the common element that everyone has. Everyone needs a common reference point.
No, it's in the sense that, for instance, in if I'm not mistaken, in Newgrange,
Mhm.
the bowl of water was removed when it was found and placed at the end, at the further end or the largest room of the site. And it was wrong because it was found that the basin, after all, was on the right room when you go in the corridor.
Mhm.
So what do you find on that right room? Exactly what I expect to find: the bedrock exposed, which you don't have in any other place on the ground of the site. So
Mhm.
you put a high crystalline vase on top of a crystalline node of telluric energy. You put water in it that becomes coherent water by the effects of the frequencies. It will display the cymatics because it's getting the vibrations from the stone and from the site, and will display a design that can be the spirals, can be these geometric forms that we are seeing now on screen. And this would allow them to tune to specific functionalities. So if you want to communicate and long distances, use a type of frequency. If you want to enter high states of awareness or consciousness, you tune a different frequency. So, and
But
to finish, go ahead.
I was gonna say, but they all have to still be in tune with the earth. You described a trident, 3 frequencies, but in
Yes,
order to harmonize, the other 2 frequencies have to be in harmony with that base frequency. And if the base frequency is coming from the earth itself, that's what it determines the key that all the other chords would be in, right?
the key is the third frequency that is the result of the frequency introduced and is the actual response of the site. So it's the site that creates the last frequency from resonance.
Mm-hmm.
So the last element of this is the actual site itself. That's why it has to be built through specific rules and mineralogies and alignments and positionings and so on, because it has to produce its own tune. This is something that was found by the people that tuned pianos in cathedrals and churches, the pipe organs. And for instance, if you think about a pipe organ, why are they used on churches? Because
Mm-hmm.
it's the only instrument that can produce the trident of frequencies by itself.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it has a key of bases on the feet, and it has several keyboards to produce different frequencies and innumerous knobs to raise or lower the frequency of the sound.
Mm-hmm.
So what these people found when they when they go and tune this, they record the tuning, and when they got home to listen to what they have done, they realized that there's a spectrometer. How is it called?
Spectrometer.
Spectrometer is showing a third music. So it's their music playing. It's the echo that is coming back, and is another new frequency playing on top of that. And that new frequency is the church itself playing its own music,
Reverberating, resonating.
and it creates a new melody. It's not just a resonance, it's a new melody. So it's no accident. For instance, when you go to the again, I'm going to refer the city of Alatri, because the cathedral was subjected to this analysis with that camera that detects the magnetic fields, and the entire church, every surface, every crevice, every curve was completely red from high intense electromagnetic field. So the whole structure was alive with energy. And we are talking about a place where children of 5 years can be placed in a state of high meditation without training in seconds. In seconds.
We
Yeah.
literally made a short about that. I'm pulling it up. If that was one of our shorts from Mike Fiorito.
Yep. That was so what I always go back to is like, how do you think that I hate to say we as in the human race, but that civilization that created these megaliths developed this technology, do you think just through their different technological evolution, a different technological evolution than we're on? Do you feel like they got the info from somewhere else? Like, what do you think?
The cymatics just got up and walked out of that puddle one day. That's what happens. It was a random chance.
I believe that there are many ways, as Mike said, of detecting the cymatic effect.
Mhm.
We see lots of small bowls carved onto stone.
Mhm.
We see the South American small channels of water going through bowls, and then channel, and then another bowl, and then 3 bowls,
Uh-huh.
and so on. So in a place that is quite prone to seismic activity, after those are filled with water, when the earth trembles, they would see the effects on the water.
Right.
It's not a big lake that it's easy to not see. It's a small bowl that was carved, and you can see the effects on it. So there are many ways they can detect it first. The first thing we have to understand is that we are seeing advanced humans, or Homo sapiens. We are looking at the species that we are told is but a smear on top of 12, 13, 14,000, 15,000 years. And the reality from the evidence stretches back to 150,000 years. Some cases go up to 300,000 years.
That's what they're saying.
So they had lots of time to learn, lots of time to have to experience all of this.
So they can observe it. Like, observing it and developing a technology that's useful are two different things. But the time, if you've got, I mean, unless you're interrupted by a asteroid or an asteroid impact, a super volcano, something like that, which does happen. If you get enough time, you can make enough observations to develop a technology, right? As long as if it's possible in a lab today, they could have figured it out then, right?
Look, if you by accident manage a system that can detect an eclipse on a place that an eclipse is considered to be a godly effect that might terminate the world, and you say, we have to do this, and then the sun will be released from his jail, right? So everyone is depending on you. Let's hope you're right. And then they see the sun disappear behind the moon, because it's small generations. We're talking about 70 years of life, right? So those who have the knowledge will always have the power, because after we see what used to be a sacrifice, the sun did reappear. So either it's you that have the power, or is a sacrifice that did appease the gods. So these are the the culture, or what I call this. Yeah, this is the culture of what I call the slavers. But what we find in the megalithic world, it's not a culture of slavers that is, for instance, Angkor Wat, because you don't see an area specifically built to sustain thousands of people in terms of food. In megalithic sites, you don't see thousands of people. You see small communities living of a vast area of land, but they live naturally. And what I find curious is, when I wrote to Resonant Earth, I only knew of Iberia being a place where for at least 7,000 years they lived in peace and abundance. And with no war, with no knowledge of war, because they didn't have any weapons. There was not one single tool whose only function was to kill another human being. They have arches, they have arrows, they have hatches, they have spears, but those were used to hunt, not to kill another human being. Okay? And the fascinating thing is, I found out that is replicated in summer. Well, I studied summer for many years, and never I saw that. And so I saw a study saying that summer, until the end of the Stone Age, didn't have any weapons. So we have all of these communities living from the megalithic world, some in caves carved by them, some in structures fully built, with the same type of harmony or resonance included in the project on the same telluric places. And we see that these people lived in peace. They lived in peace with one another. They lived in peace with the environment. They live in peace with the bio world. So it's a completely different form of culture.
I'm wondering, like, how they know that they lived in peace. And the thing that comes to mind is, like, maybe the discovery of human skeletons, a certain age, like maybe 18 to 40, don't have a bunch of hatchet wounds in the head or arrow, stuff like that. Or is that how they tell? Or
first of all, during the time when the megaliths were active, there is not one single sign of mix of cultures, of invasion, nor is a finding of an object that implies war.
Okay.
There is no signs of hunger, no signs that are abnormal in terms of disease, as you will see then in Egypt, as you will see then when we get to the 2000 BC, more or less. So after the cataclysm of 4000 BC, that also ended the Stone Age. Because this is also curious, because when you have a system that works on natural energy, and that natural energy is conveyed by the ground, and you have an event that forces the seawater into the land, then rain that starts to be hot and then is cold, storms, all these type of things will flood the land. So what happens is the energy that was concentrated on the crystalline matrix through the veins of the crystal through these nodes is now spread all over the place, because the ground is filled with water, is saturated. The surface of the land is filled with water. So these sites are no longer operational. So is it a coincidence that, for instance, Iberia and other places like England and so on, and summer now, after this event, after the land is saturated with water and these sites cease to work, at least temporary, perhaps for many years, you see that others manage to invade. So is it possible that places like the ancient city of Gore, that the castle of Groparello, that shows us technologies of sound invested into warfare, something that the Russians attempted, something that you can go and look online. There is lots of articles on modern uses of sound against for military uses and so on. Why? Because if you have 4 Earths, if you can produce a resonance of 4 Hertz from these sites, and these sites normally are composed of an underground room that is wrongly called the hypogeum by the archaeologists, and a tower built atop of it. So what this does is spreads a bubble of sound that affects everyone in it. And what this does is, if you don't compress the sound, so if you don't compress the sound into the hypogeum that then is reverberated by the tower, then you have a feeling of bliss, the bliss. You have the feeling of divine connection. You have that people normally recognize on church during the chanting and so on. Okay, that's what's produced by the 4 Hertz when it's not compressed. But what does it happen when you compress the sound? What happens is loss of limb control, serious hallucinations of your darkest fears, extreme confusion. So what happened in Groparello after 400 years of attempting to take the castle is that they start killing each other. They went mad, and no one could explain it, until finally some teams of archaeoacoustics decided to go to the site and study the site and found this without even thinking about this 400 years of war. So, but it explained it because it created a bubble of around 4 Hertz of compressed sound waves that turns everybody insane. They didn't know where the castle is. They start to turn to one another. They drop themselves on the ground in fear. So there are many applications for this ancient type of technology. And the fact is, I'm sorry, I'm making it too long, is that
You're good.
the invasions only happened
Mhm.
when the technology is lost, when we transition from the Stone Age to the Bronze Age. And then you have the history so well known and so poorly known of Arthur and the search for the Holy Grail. So this was around that time, or perhaps later, of course, when those technologies wanted to be revived. So someone was sent to a place on Earth that was not affected by this great flood to find if they still knew how this system worked. Because after 7,000 years of peace, do you believe that everyone still knew, even the shamans knew how the system worked? I don't believe they do. They did. They just use it as we use our televisions.
Hmm.
You see, I recently wrote.
There were some shamans that knew how to change out the batteries in the remotes. Good,
Yes,
but that still doesn't mean they know how to
exactly.
build a television.
Exactly.
funny.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Look, I recently done a post about a cave that I can't remember the name right now. And so the guy that did the research was guided by the shaman that to this day does rituals on the cave. And obviously, the academic found archaeoacoustic effects happening in the cave that produce those effects of transcendency and altered states of consciousness. And so he asked the guides, so you don't realize that this is the sound that is producing the effect that you claim to be from the gods? And he says, neither me nor the one that teach me know anything about the sound being what causes it. We just sing during the rituals because we are taught to do it, but we have no idea of what we are talking about. And he didn't get interested.
I would want to know. I would
No,
want to
no.
find out about that.
Look, at the end of that paper, and I say it in my article, there's two ways. One, he didn't want to say, yes, acoustic is the secret and it can lead to this. And there's a false door there that I used to
close.
transverse to go to another place. So either he didn't want to speak about it and played the, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. But okay, we just keep doing as we do. It's fine. Or you actually don't know, or you actually don't know. So there's also there's always that possibility. So the simple fact that you have 7,000 years of peace means that you lose most of what you would hold dear if you needed to be on your toes. Because you live in an environment where, as academics say, the very frequency produced by these sites, that contrary to churches that concentrated within the church, these sites spread the effect outwards. So even the animals would be docile and easy to kill, as in Doggerland, for instance. They would be very easy to kill because they would not be frightened. They would be on this hive mind state where there is no fear. In fact, there is some tribes still that walk towards lions, for instance, to take their meat that they just hunted, because they don't want to hunt, so they steal from the lions. And I'm not comparing the two things. I'm just saying that there are ways in the ancient world.
Connecting dots, though, because haven't you always heard that dogs or other animals can smell fear, or that there are certain types of people that don't smell like fear? They can be around any dog they've never seen before. It could be the angriest dog, and they don't set them off. They don't have fear.
Yeah.
There's something to all that.
Yeah, that might also be related to pheromones, but yes, what you mean is paramount in that. Yes.
It would make hunting a lot easier if things didn't try to run away from you.
You don't get a dog whisperer. You don't get a dog whisperer or a horse whisperer without having something intrinsic to your biology that is not skill. It is not skill. It is a gift that you are born with, that animals react. So imagine that you are in a tribe and you see that guy has that effect on animals. He would be the guy responsible for that.
It's funny.
To practice that skill and hone that skill, but the nugget that begins, there's some natural
in the current world, they'll say, "Oh, yeah, he has an act with dogs. Go to study, go to study, go to school."
This reminds me of my dad because all dogs and cats love my dad for some reason. I love my dad too, but he drives me nuts sometimes. But like, it's not the same with people with him, you know. But like with animals, dogs, cats, every single one of them loves him. Never met one that
No,
didn't. So that makes me think
look,
that's interesting.
Look, I'm going to refute that because I think you're going to unsay what you just said. How many times you find out that some people connect immediately with you and some are irritated to you for no apparent reason whatsoever. You never talk to them,
Yeah.
you never said anything, but those people hate you. They just hate you.
That happens to me occasionally. Yeah. Not very often. I'm gonna be honest. I can only think of like less than 5 people who've reacted to me that way. But
No,
it
but
was
it
always
happens.
it was very strong every time.
But it happens, so it is chemical.
Yeah.
We must come to the grasp that our biosuit that we use to experience this world has many things that are still to be explained and controlled.
Yes.
Yeah, you said that in a you said that in a comment before we went live, before you popped on live.
Yep.
We live in electromagnetic biosuits on a morphogenic field, so it's natural that we get affected by the sun. You want to elaborate on that a little bit?
Sure. So, how can something that alters the natural frequency that we are embedded in levels that do affect us, of course, and not be affected by it? So even the mood, for instance, if you go to people that live, by the way, look, who's the country with the highest rate of suicide?
I think it's Japan, but I could be wrong. I'm gonna look it up.
Okay.
Is it Japan?
No, I don't know. I think it's a Nordic country because they don't see the
Oh
sun.
yeah, you're probably right. Yeah. Country. I'm gonna ask Grok. Who? I think actually you're right. I think it's the Netherlands. Suicide. Waiting on Grok. There's a country called Lesotho, and it's a small country in South Africa. It's reported to have the highest suicide rate in the world. Crazy.
Yeah, that's a new thing.
yeah, that is a new thing. I think you're right. I think it's a Nordic country as
Okay,
as
but
well.
my point is this:
And I believe that the Arctic Circle, as well as like Seattle has, like Washington State has like high depression rates.
yeah,
So does
too much concrete. Too much concrete.
Yeah, too much concrete, not enough. Brittany said she did see Greenland in the text I was reading, or she was reading. So Greenland's one of them. So Alaska has a high depression rate. I know that.
It's been a year since I look at that, but I clearly remember that the countries that saw very little of the sun had high levels of depression and of suicide, especially for people that live alone. But regarding your question, is all our body is managed by electromagnetics, all of it.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have an explosion of electromagnetics embedded in your atmosphere coming from the sun, and you are in the middle of it, there is no suit to isolate it from it. Your body has to respond to it, and that response mostly comes from the brain itself. It produces in your hormones, in your nervous system, that I have receptors to these things. So it has to affect you. So there's people that have cardiac problems because of solar eruptions. I think that who's done the best work in this has been banned from suspicious observers.
Yeah.
Davidson, one of our favorites.
Yes.
Shut up, Ben.
So he has done he has shown some good evidence that academics show that it is connected. In fact, when I researched this for the Telluric corns for my paper Places of Power, Places of Magic,
Mhm.
there are one study showing that students were much more effective as in terms of body in certain periods of the moon phase,
Mm.
and then not so good. In fact, even the oxygen levels were different, the
Hmm.
metabolism were different, and then academics made sure to create 3 different papers after that one where no difference at all is shown unless in an elderly group where their insulin values were rather different, but nothing else. So the resistance of the body to stress was the same. The headaches or minor problems like that were the same. There's no variation at all. For instance, you have studies saying that the full moon is when most crime happens,
Hmm.
right? But then you go to look for those studies, and there's nowhere you can find that information because there's lots of studies in front of it saying that there is no effect at all.
Hmm.
So the only thing we have is the criminal record showing that there is an increase in 15-20% on that
That
times.
that and anecdotal of people who work in hospitals and police officers and that kind of thing that
Yep.
see it, you know.
Yeah, yeah. So we are affected. Of course, we are affected.
Yeah, I got me thinking when you're with the animals responding to different people in different ways, sort of thing. I don't know, like I mean, this is obviously one of the most obvious and easy to understand examples for somebody who's new to this kind of thing and how vibration affects humans is music, right? I mean, like you hear a song that you connect to, it brightens your mood. You hear a song that maybe helps you indulge in maybe a dark emotion. Um, why do you suppose like we're all different in that like maybe Mike likes Metallica, but I like Boys to Men, and you like Bach or something, and maybe the like and it's
Little
like
boys, 2 men. A little boys, 2 men doesn't hurt from now and then. Also,
for sure, right? But then you come across people who are like, oh, I don't, I that type of music, I can't. That I can't even. And I'm not most types of music I like, but there are a few that I can't. And so I wonder how that fits into all this. Like I guess just as our individual biologies, right?
Well, if we lived in a world where you would be exposed to all kinds of music and then you would decide which one you like most,
Mm-hmm.
I would accept everyone's taste.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is you live in a world where people are conditioned to like certain types of music.
Yeah.
So more, you now live in a world where music is not only always the same music, as the lyrics change a bit, but the music is always the same, and it's simpler and simpler and simple
It's
in
so
terms of
sad.
lyrics, and it gets so basic that, for instance, in Portugal, what are now on the hits for almost a decade are musics that I would consider now the same that I had when I had 4 years old for children. So for that age,
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
not kidding. I'm not kidding. The lyrics are the same as you would get for a 4-year-old child when I was 4 years old. So it's ridiculous, and everybody sings, and everybody identifies, and and people enjoy it because it's simple. They don't have to think. It's something that it is easy to sing. And then there's their card, and their MasterCard is the fact
Mhm.
that the music plays 3 times an hour. So it is a fact, a scientific fact. If I put you 10 to repeat something 10 to 15 times, depending on each one of us, you would memorize it, even if it's a subliminal level.
Right.
You won't forget it, right?
Yep.
That's one of the the secrets that these guys that do this high stand-up self-help programs of success and so on is to repeat things constantly.
Hypnosis for weight loss and
Ex-
hypnosis for quitting smoking. All that's been around for a long time.
So it is repetition, and that system works. We see it on our educational system all around the world. It's not about discussion or understanding. It's about memorization.
It makes me sad.
Yeah. So, but to me, the problem is that when you have the children in an age where he's revealing, it doesn't matter if it is at 3, if it is at 15, but he's revealing a gift for something. That gift is completely alienated because he has to do the same as everyone else.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
It's like saying that if you are good at something, you are making the others look bad.
Yep.
Mm.
Not a
You
good
see?
way to do things.
So it's not used. So my question is, how many Da Vinci's, how many Bach's, how many Newtons,
Mm-hmm.
how many John Anthony Wests that we lost that were not used because of a system that makes everyone the same. And that's a principle that is completely wrong because we are all completely different.
Yeah, that's a good explanation to my question, because we are all completely different. And, I would to elaborate on why that makes me sad though, is like, we've all experienced like, sitting back and you have no distractions and you indulge in a complex like piece of music. And it's really one of the most, riveting, soul mustering things a human can experience. And like you said, you turn on the radio today, the country song sounds exactly the same as the hip hop song. And there's really they're turning into the same thing. Whereas like hip hop in its purest form is very complex and unique, and same with like, American country music. Right. And so do you think I could get conspiratorial on that, but is that on purpose or like, why are we doing that?
Look, it is made not by the artist, but by the corporation. And let me explain.
Right.
There is no artist today. There's dancers, mimics, and stage performers.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because if you go to 20, 25, 30 years back, these great musical groups were already trying to manipulate their artists to do what they thought was better, to make them money. But they respected the audience. So you have Metallica has his unique style within that genre of music. It's not equal to the others. And you go to another band of that style and it's different, although it's the same style. Okay. And you have a variety of styles that you don't have anymore. Now it's all uniformitized. It's all pop music.
Yeah.
So if it is not pop, it is rap. If it is not rap, it's R&B. But R&B to pop, difference today. I don't know if there is any difference today.
They all used to be way more different. It's all
So,
kind of the same thing wearing different clothes now.
If I make a playlist, I will go from music from Italy to Nirvana to some from Pet Shop Boys that it was the pop of the time. I can go to traditional music and I can enjoy all of them. But you go to an iPod, I don't know if people still use iPods, but whatever they use to listen to music every day, they listen to what they are being given. They don't even make the trouble of making playlists anymore. Just give me, because I don't have the time to do it. Just give me what you
makes
want.
the playlist for you.
Yeah, just so there is,
and you know what it does? It makes it makes the playlist basically similar. It's like similar stuff. So you just hear the same shit over and over again.
Over and over. Yeah.
I always have to go into my YouTube music and go and change stuff up so I can mix it up. on purpose. Otherwise, the algorithm itself just dials me into this one like area.
Exactly.
If for this, let's pretend that week I'm really into I don't know, like you said, Nirvana. Then next thing, by the end of that week, it's going to only be showing me that kind of music and stuff related to it, right?
Sure. And other thing that people do is they mix the person with the product that the person produces.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, I seriously dislike most of the position of the ancient vocalist from Pearl Jam.
Mm-hmm.
And yet I think he has musics that are absolutely brilliant. And in fact, he does soundtracks for movies and so on. And he's brilliant at that. As a person, I profoundly dislike his opinions. But I do like his art. So I don't mix the two things.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So, but today you like the person first, and then you like its art, even if you don't like its art, because you like the person, because everyone likes that person, because that person is hype, and so you follow the trend. It's no longer, the individual has no longer a taste as much as the community in which he wants to be inserted has that taste, although none of them actually have that taste because it was produced by an image that they liked and wanted to follow in the first place. So
a lot of it's coming from the corporations too. They're saying, oh, well,
Yeah.
you need to listen to these people and like them. And they're also telling those artists, this is what you think. And you need to tell everybody to think that and think this way. Whereas like
Yeah.
you're saying, if we're two different artists with different viewpoints, we can still enjoy each other's art and like each other's art and just agree to disagree on other things. There's no need, like you don't have to roll those together.
sure. Look, I think I had this discussion with Dave. It's you, Dave, that likes rap, right?
I do like rap, but I don't remember talking to you about that.
Okay,
But
so-
I've talked. I like most music.
I like, what I listen to most is ancient instruments or Baroque or
Mhm.
anything that can be quite recent music, but actually played.
Mhm.
So not pressing buttons in a computer. I like
Mhm.
to see the instruments to work. I like to see the
Mhm.
ability that the performer has with the instrument and so on.
Mhm.
In terms of rap, what I was saying is this: I profoundly dislike rap for the same reason I dislike a style of music in Portugal is called pimba. Pimba replaced. Pimba basically means hillbilly. Okay,
Uh-huh.
more or less like that. It's not just prestigious. It's just saying it's music for the country folk. Okay,
Mhm. Mhm.
but it ceased to be that. Now it's just highly sexualized music.
Mm.
Okay, highly sexualized that is repeated. So the whole song will have 3 phrases for 5 or 6 minutes, and the 3 phrases will be repeated, and they have highly sexualized content that is dirty. Okay, but my point is this: when the government of America decided to make prisons a private institution, those few and perhaps good and talented rappers that existed were all called to a meeting, and in that meeting they were introduced to the new owners of these prisons, and they said, look, we have all these places, we invested billions building these facilities, but we don't have anyone to put in them.
Mm.
So this is what I want you to do. I will give you anything you want: girls, drugs, immunity, anything you want. And think right on what I'm telling and look back to these guys.
I know where you're going with this.
I'm giving everything you want, but you will start writing songs that have meaning or any enhancement to those that listen to it. I want you to start about anger, hate,
Mhm.
revolt,
Mhm.
crime,
Women abusing women,
abusing women,
disrespecting women, yeah.
upfeeling,
Buying
disrespect for
stuff,
authority,
owning things, and bling bling. Yeah.
disrespect for authority, complete disregardment for society rules,
Yeah.
and rap became that.
Yeah, I don't know, like, that's an interesting, like, thing that you just said. And I when I think about rap, like, I grew up listening to, like, a lot of it with my friends, especially Tupac's a really good example, because Tupac was often considered one of the best, if not the best of all time. But when you go and you go back and you examine Tupac's early life, he was a Juilliard trained actor and musician, right? And and then all of a sudden he ends up from New York in LA in the middle of this cultural hip hop explosion, and he's the way he talked, the way he acted was not. He was a character. He was an industry plant in a character, and this is a good conclusion I came to within the last few years. Like, holy shit, Tupac was an industry plant. That's so crazy. But I didn't realize there was like a really deliberate, like relationship to that and the private prisons, but they probably do line up time wise, right? Like the prisons became private, in the 80s or the 90s, the early 90s, right?
I can't remember the name, but you have a very good documentary where many of these original rappers that were on the meeting are acknowledging all of this. And in fact, I think it's a documentary about Tupac and why he was killed.
Because he started saying, "Hey, he was starting to speak out about it," right?
Not exactly about this, but about other rotten parts of the corporations trying to control the music world. So, look, this is something I shouldn't talk about because it's plans for the future. But I'm try to hide it as much as I can. I remember this because I told this to the person I was talking to about alienating the already existing supporters of a project. And when you have, no matter if you have 15 or you have 15,000, you don't alienate the persons that already subscribe to your project. You make those people, you excel and make those people recommend you to another 50,000. You don't alienate them. So what Disney has done, for instance, is to alienate 150 million truly fans of something and say, you're garbage. I'm just going to make something for these 15 guys in this. Sorry, guys, girls. I don't know what you are, but anything. Those people on the front row, those 15, I'm going to start making episodes for those 15. Amazon did the same thing. So when people say, oh, it's about money, it isn't, because they lost billions and billions and billions in the last years. They don't make money from a movie in years. So it's not about money. And if it's not about money, where does the money coming from? Does it money exist or only exists for me and you? Right? Because if you get to a point where money is numbers in a computer, it's irrelevant. So they must have a blank card. It's impossible for a corporation to lose the amount of money that they lost. And I'm not counting with the investment of the acquisition of Star Wars. I'm just saying what they lost from their investment. They should be bankrupted years ago. That completely, because no corporation can sustain that. So what sustains it is an idea to change society that failed, luckily. But they destroyed something that was loved and replaced it for something that is a complete garbage that makes no sense and grabs everything that was behind and says that doesn't exist, never did. So what they did with music, and this is why my full circle, what they did to music is exactly that.
Full circle for this one.
This new generation has no idea of the real music that existed before. And if you go further back, you'll say that the people from the 60s will say the same thing from the music of the 80s and so on. But it was still cultural. It was a matter of ideology and musical construction. Now is about how you are dressed or how much you are not dressed, to be more specific. How you move, and the fact that people believe that you can be jumping on a stage and still singing. He has very good athletics. Yes, it's impossible. You cannot be jumping and not sound like this. So it's all fake, and I can't support or like something like that.
Yeah, that makes sense. I just asked Grok, are any of these documentaries, the one you're talking about, Louder Than a Riot? Does that sound familiar? An NPR
Oh,
diet?
I saw that 20 years ago. So
Okay. How about the truth about the truth about private prisons in hip hop?
that one should
Vigo?
have it.
Okay. I also pulled up a video featuring Crazy Bone from Bone Thugs and Harmony. It's 12 minutes long, so I won't watch it now, but it says Crazy Bone exposes private prisons that are linked to rap music. So this is a rabbit hole, Ricardo, that you just opened up for me.
I didn't have this on my bingo card for this episode whatsoever. If you're still tuned in with us here, we didn't even cross this line until about the 2-hour mark. But
Yeah.
I wasn't hour 2. Music
Hour-
industry, prison
Yeah.
industry connections exposed. We're here to explore the links. This is a deep dive.
The shorts that are going
Do
to come out of
forgive
this
me.
are going to be good.
I thought it was something that was generally known. So
I honestly didn't know that generally. No, I mean, it makes a lot of sense to me. I know all about the private prison industry and like how why that's bad and stuff. I just didn't. I thought they used drugs to like that was probably part of it, part of the operation.
they
but
use everything they can.
yeah, right. Yeah, it's my understanding that here's a bunch of crack cocaine, like as soon as the prison industries went private, right?
Yep.
But you're right. It makes sense that they would come at it from more than one angle, right? So they made movies about it. I remember we'd watch those movies, Boys in the Hood and stuff like that. And I don't know. I was a kid in Nova Scotia, a white kid in Nova Scotia, Canada, watching this stuff. A lot of my friends were, if not most of them, were black at the time, but still, we'd be watching this stuff and we'd be like, trying to dress like that, trying to talk like that, listen to the song. This is 12-year-old me, right? And I just find that so fascinating, that the reach it had, because it just didn't just leave LA and New York City. It went across the entire world. Yeah.
It spread.
Yeah. That's crazy, man. That's wild. And I mean, it's related though to your book. It's related to why we brought you on, man. It's all vibrations, right? It's all
sound. It's all sound.
It's all sound. Ricardo, can you tell us? You mentioned a little bit. Can you give what is next on the horizon for Ricardo? If you can give anything away, got anything you want to share about?
I can say that I started, which I hope that I completed. I just started the pre-production for 2 new documentaries.
Mm-hmm.
So one of them, I'm already starting to make some contacts. I already have some positive feedback, but there's a lot of people on higher status that I haven't reached yet. Although I have already a fair good from those I contacted already.
Mhm.
And I think I can give the title because I'm not going to change it. So the title of this one is going to be called the State of History and the Fall of Academia.
Ooh, that's a bit scathing in a way, huh?
Yes, it is. And because I do appreciate very much academics.
Sure.
The first thing it will have is a disclaimer on why we should be thankful for academics for everything that any amateur researcher or independent researcher does comes from the work that was done before. Mm-hmm. So we can go to sites and do our measuring, but without the work that was done, that we aren't able to do. So we owe 90% of our knowledge to the work of these people. They might be wrong, but the facts that they give us still serve a purpose. And so I think they are vitally important. My only struggle with academics is their reluctance to accept that our understanding of the past has changed, has morphed. It's not the same anymore. They were right in many things, but they were also wrong in many things. And that's okay to be wrong because they follow the natural line of thought according to what they knew back then. We now know other stuff, and that stuff must be included, and the books must be changed. Okay, so this case of the Azores I gave is one of them. Another one would be, for instance, the Child of Lapido, where you have a Neanderthal and the how they are called. So they are not sapiens. Give me the name, please, because I can't.
Cro-Magnons.
No.
That's too far back.
Oh.
They are sapiens, but they have a specific name that I can't remember right now. But
Erectus? No.
Gravitinians, something like that.
Okay.
So,
Brittany, can you try to look that up? Homo gravitinius or something like that?
So what is happening in this valley is that it's an immense valley where Neanderthals and these Gravitinians were living together as a community. And we know that because we found the burial of a child that is half Neanderthal, half Gravitian, and has the symbols of both cultures represented on his grave.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of artistic work, myths, beliefs, and so on are incorporated differently on the grave. So you know that they're working together, that they were living together. And although this is one of the most important sites archaeology has ever found in regards to this problem, it is abandoned for 2 years. The public cannot access it. And the findings were made into a simple paper that was not properly divulged to other areas. So there must be any areas of universities that study this matter and never saw that paper, for instance. And the same to the Azores, which is unequivocal that we have at least hundreds of Phoenicians. I'm not even talking about the megaliths because those are there. You cannot take them from there. But the anchors were quite controversial until they find out that they all have the same 14 centimeter hole to paste the line that holds the anchor. So it's not something that can be made by the Earth. The Earth didn't make a series of stone anchors and made a hole of the same size in all of them. Mm-hmm. So all of them, when I mean all, it's all of them. So and that's my neck. So I hope it turns out all right. So I found a way to do it without having to use this system because I don't think it would look good on a documentary. And I believe that in the very end you will be a very good part of it.
Cool. That sounds exciting.
We can't wait to learn more and learn about the project as it progresses.
Sure.
Yeah, well, that's something we were going to talk about here after we get offline is kind of how Ricardo wants to get us involved in some of those projects.
By the way, big news. The Institute is already registered as a non-profit organization. We did it.
Congratulations. That's
We
a
did
big
it.
step forward.
Okay.
Nice. Big step forward in the process. And where I used Amazon, but where can we find your book besides Amazon? Anywhere else?
Not right now.
Okay.
It will be available on Aeon Publishing, if I'm not mistaken in the name. That is a new company. But for now it isn't. No, and I'm not satisfied with Amazon. And I'm glad you're. So this is my other book, Stardust. I bought 7 for my family, and all of them in paperback. The first leaves are loose.
Bummer.
All of them. And I told Amazon, and they say, that's not your problem, that's ours. If the customer is not satisfied, you can communicate with us and tell us what's going on.
At least the nice part is Amazon's super easy to get a refund. They'll literally send you anything.
Probably that's why they didn't care.
Yeah, probably. They literally, they don't even check. I'm not a dishonest person, but I could easily rip off Amazon once every couple months and they would never notice because they literally don't check. Eventually you might show up in their algorithm that, hey, he keeps returning the well, this came to me when I think we must have been talking yesterday, literally yesterday. No, it was Tuesday or yesterday, and I was like, I just ordered it. Hopefully, it's here by Thursday, and then boom. So at least they're fast. I don't know if that's a good thing, but Can I ask, are you looking into making an audio version, and how difficult is that?
Well, I'm planning to do audiobooks of the two.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Although the other one will probably be involved in the other documentary that I was talking about. So it will also have a version in video.
Very cool.
As for that one, what I'm looking for to be made until the end of the year is an illustrated version that will look like. So it doesn't have the cover anymore because my children ran through it, but this is one of my favorite books from my childhood. So it will look like it will have illustrations so that people will understand exactly what I'm talking about. So it will have an illustrated version that will be a little bit bigger than that one.
Neat. Taking inspiration from one of your childhood, whatever you want to call it, maybe not heroes, but childhood inspirations.
Sure. And by the way, let me make a call out there. If you are in a language that is not English nor Portuguese, and you are willing to translate verbatim the book into your language, if it is sold, I'll give you 50% of everything we sell. Okay.
Huh. That's interesting. I don't speak another language, but I know some people who do, so I'm going to put that out there.
Yeah, because I would like to have them translated.
Yeah, that's cool. I don't know. We got anything else to talk about today, or are we wrapping it up?
I think next time we're going to hit the music industry again and do a deep dive on Michael Jackson. He was innocent. He was framed. He'll always be the GOAT.
I thought you were going to ask, was he white? Was he black?
I always loved MJ myself. I still go on a little Michael Jackson bender once a year, probably.
He was suing Sony Music for $750 million and had him. He had it, and then what happened after that?
Yeah.
Look, he's a very, very talented human, but he was more traumatized still than he was talented.
The history of his family, yes, it's a whole chapter.
Not only is he family, you people have to come to grasp there is no actor, no singer with that kind of success that hasn't had to be passed through some sort of ritual that would scar him for life. And I'll leave you this one that is very strong. Ask Grok, not now, but ask Grok how many of these people lost their child. In the music world alone, you can go and you find a bunch of them, all around the same age. Because if you want to get really far, they demand a proof of commitment.
Yeah, I think that exists across almost like outside of the entertainment industry as well. And that's where some of this Epstein stuff comes into play. That's how they control the narrative. It's social engineering, right?
Sure. Look.
And that's why we started this show, to break through all of that and deliver our own content.
Mike,
each other.
Okay, yeah. Mike, we lost your mic there for a second. Say that again.
I was just saying that's why we started this channel, to share everything and to break through those boundaries.
Yeah, for sure. And hey, we're going to Cosmic Summit 2025. What's the dates on those? March or June 20th to the 23rd, I believe.
Yep.
That's in Greensboro, North Carolina. Ricardo, are you going to be there? I don't know if you made up your mind yet or not.
Come on and join us.
As long as I have, well, as you know, I have the chance to stay in the hotel for free, but I still have to make the money to pay the trip, and it's getting expensive all the time, and I still don't have all the data, so I don't know.
Yeah, if you're watching, George Howard, hit us back up. He's been good. He's been responding to us eventually, but we're Cosmic Summit, June 20th to 23rd. Ricardo's might be there. Mike and Dave are definitely going to be there.
We're also going to hit up Contact in the Desert before that. And then before that, we're going to do a road trip with our friend Tyrone Ellington and check out Serpent Mound and Monk's Mound here.
Yeah. And that's actually happening in less than 2 weeks. We leave on that trip a week from Monday. It's going to be a 4-day road trip. We're going to Pinson Mound as well in Tennessee. And we're going to
4 day with Tyrone. So
yeah.
4 day we'll have 7 books to each one of you.
Yep, 7 books for each one of us. And it's going to be fun. By the way, Contact in the Desert is May 29th to June 2nd. It's in Palm Springs. It's a much bigger conference than Cosmic Summit, but it's all about UFOs. So join us there as well. Find Ricardo's book, The Resonant Earth, on Amazon, as well as Stardust, as well on Amazon. Correct. And I'm now also participating as a writer on Ancient History X. Nice.
I think most people will find on the website or on the page of on X.
On X.
Yep.
So they're creating a very, very good site, and I'm very proud to be selected to write for them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's another plugin that I like to make there.
Yeah, we'll put up any of these links down below. Anybody else you want to plug, Ricardo?
So. Well, I just want to say that you can find my books pinned at the top of my page on X. Mm-hmm. You'll put the link for my YouTube channel, that is History, Myths, and Legends. I don't create as much content as I would like because I really barely have the time right now. But I do still write an article every day. So if you go to my X account, you'll find at least 70 articles probably already written in a month and a half. So I've been writing them consistently. So I hope people like them. And I think that visit the Institute, go to the webpage, see our Pharaohs magazine. The new magazine will coming up in the next 2 weeks, I hope. There's some people that I would like to put in it that I still don't have the article, but they will come, and then I will present the magazine then.
Awesome.
Very cool.
Well, it's been a blast having you on the show. Thanks to everybody for tuning in.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, did we miss anything? We'll be back again next week.
Yeah, we'll be back in next week. Check out Bonnie Tarwater on our next episode of Humans of the Multiverse, dropping at 6 p.m. Eastern. Peace out.
Peace. See y'all later.